What's up, YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. Do you guys like my pajama bottoms and my top? This is the HBF collection. Your passion, make it happen. And the nice thing about these tops is it could be this way, or it could be this way. Today we are going to be talking about why food makes you fat. Why do you gain weight from food? Most of us fear food. We stay away from food. We stay away from certain foods. We'll never eat specific foods because of the fear that we are going to gain weight. We're going to lose progress. I mean, most of us, our biggest fear is gaining weight, is gaining fat, getting fat. That is our biggest fear. So a lot of us tend to restrict ourselves and punish ourselves in so many ways so we don't gain weight. Now, some of us have already gained a significant amount of weight, and at that point, some of us will try so many different things. You still can't lose weight. I have a lot of who reach out to me and say basically they eat their feelings. That is true, and it happens with a lot of people. It can be men and women. Why does it get to that point where we do eat food and we have some kind of negative reaction? Most of us don't sit to evaluate the whole situation and what's going on. We always think right in the moment of what's going on. So whatever you're putting in your mouth or the future. We never think about what we've been doing. Most of you probably cut carbs, and it can be anything from good carbs, potatoes, rice, or a lot of you will cut carbs, and it could be processed carbs. It could be, breads, rice cakes, it could be pastries, donuts, it could be anything along those lines. And then there is a good portion of us that restrict a lot of fat, and they'll only eat certain fats, but they're usually like this big, not very much. A lot of us will just restrict food overall. I know a lot of you are currently doing this. You'll just eat a lot of vegetables and protein. That's it. Think of it this way. You have restricted or cut out foods, and you've already been doing this for a good, significant amount of time. Your body is going to adapt to that. Your body's smart. It's smarter than we think it is. It knows what you're doing, when you're doing it, and for how long. The way it works naturally, it's gonna go into a survival mode. It's got to adapt to the current situation. We need a certain amount of carbs, proteins, fats, vegetables, fruits, because they all have nutrients, vitamins, specific things that our body needs in all different amounts to function normally, to work properly, for everything to work properly. That goes everything from brain function to eyesight, to digestion, to energy levels, to everything that you do on a daily basis. You need everything to work properly, and you need food. You need all different variety of food to work properly. When your body's not getting one thing from your diet, you're gonna try to manipulate and use that to compensate for what it's missing. You can kind of see what happens. Your body starts to change and work with what's available to it. So when you've cut something out, it's an essential. Essential means you have to get it from something else. Your body does not naturally produce it. Your body naturally produces a lot of things, but it needs that food in its diet. It needs that variety. So eventually, especially those who cut out carbs, your body has to adapt to not using that as an energy source. It can't refill its glycogen stores to have that energy for later. So you start getting this domino effect. One thing doesn't work, boom, gotta go to the next thing and next thing. Most of us do like to go out to eat, do want to throw in a treat, something that has a higher amount of carbs, sugar, fat. Then when you introduce whatever it is that you've cut out for that period of time, when you introduce that back into your diet, of course your body's gonna freak out. It's not gonna know how to process it. It's not gonna be able to process it correctly and smoothly, because it had to adapt to not having it in there. Your body's gonna react to that. A lot of people do gain weight instantly. Your body's gonna start storing fat because it's like, oh my God, that wasn't available. I need to save it. I need to protect my body for the next time it's not there. So you get stored as fat. Some people will get bloated, get stomach aches, and it'll be like a consistent thing until you go back to what you were doing before, cutting everything out. Then that's what it's used to. then it'll mellow back out again. A lot of people get water retention really bad. They get edema really bad, where that's the fluid buildup between your tissues, and that's where you get the swelling. A lot of you that competed probably experienced that. So you kind of see how this pattern goes. So then you see yourself blow up when you ate something that you haven't had in a long time. Immediately, where's your mind gonna go? Oh my God, I gained weight. Oh my God. Don't do that. Gotta cut it out. You feel guilty. You cut that out. You go back to what you were doing. You did not gain weight from that meal. It is physically impossible to gain that weight overnight. Didn't take you that long to lose it. It's not going to take you that quick to gain it. But your body's freaking out. It doesn't know what to do because you have deprived it of the essential important things for so long. That is not a good thing. It's not healthy. Down the road, you continue this way, it's actually going to start messing with your metabolism, how your body functions just naturally, to keeping you lean, to helping you lose weight. It's going to mess with that. It's not going to work properly. Your digestion's going to be messed up. You're going to start developing health issues. You're getting intolerances. That is all from diet. It's what you're putting in your mouth, and it's what you're not putting in your mouth. The reason we're gaining weight is because we're eating the wrong foods, or we're not eating enough of it, or we're eating too much of it, and we don't have a balance between having the proper nutrient-dense diet and having exercise. Doesn't mean you have to go train like some of these athletes or like me. You have to find something that's comfortable for you, that works with your routine. So you could be exercising 3 days a week, you know, just having something in there, but having your diet according to that. Those of you that just cut out tons of stuff for a long period of time, you're gonna start having problems with that. I talk about this and stress this so much, you guys, about nutrient dense foods, and all it is your complex carbs, your proteins, and if you eat protein, having your vegetables, having your fruits. Each and every single food item delivers a specific nutrient that your body needs. And each one has a different one. Not all the food items have the same exact nutrient. Some of them do. The levels are a little higher or lower, but some of them don't. So that's why it's good to have a balance, a variety. You don't want to cut one thing out for too long. It's different if you're competing for something. If you're preparing for like a competition, that's temporary. But if you're just trying to sustain a healthy lifestyle, you need to have variety. You need to have all these different foods. Clients who come to me and they're like, man, I did so good, but then they either see some false info out on the internet and they're like, oh, I shouldn't be eating carbs. Oh, I shouldn't be eating fruit because it has sugars. Oh, I shouldn't be eating this. I need to cut this. I should only be eating asparagus and chicken. They start seeing all this info out there. You guys don't research it, you don't understand it or what it's even for. It should be for something specific, not just a daily lifestyle. And then they go on these diets and it ends up being their downfall. They end up gaining weight. Or a lot of people, you know, it depends on body type. Some people's bodies will gain weight as soon as you cut it out. It's gonna store as much fat as it can to protect itself and save it for later. Some people's bodies, you cut things out, they're just gonna drop weight really quick, but they also are just gonna destroy their muscle tissue. So they just get really skinny, really small. So everybody's different. Every body is different. Restricting things for too long is not healthy. It's not the way you should go. And that's the reason why a lot of people end up gaining weight, is because they cut out food for too long and then they go on bingers, or they get tired of not eating food and they just start eating a large amount again. A lot of people will gain weight really fast in such a short period of time. I have so many clients, they want to drop fat, they want to drop body fat, and they're eating carbs, they're eating fruit, they're eating a variety of these things, and they're like, oh my God, you're having me eat this? How am I gonna lose weight? I'm like, trust me, you're going to. And we always have success because your body's getting what it needs. It's just about having a balance between the proper diet and the proper exercise. Now, have no fear. If you have been restricting yourself for too long, don't freak out, because I know you're probably watching this. Some of you are probably like, oh my God, I've been doing that. Oh my God, my life. Oh, I'm ruined. That's not the case. All you have to do is, and I've talked about this a lot of other times, is slowly increase your food. Slowly add in the foods that you've cut out. You have to start really, really small and work your way up. I've done this for myself in the past when I've done competitions, when I've done mini cuts and things where I've had to restrict foods for getting ready for a specific event or photo shoot or whatever it was. So let's say no carbs, period. You have to start with 50 grams a week. You have to track it. And that's the thing, is if you're trying to increase things, you have to keep track of it, because it's going to help keep you in line and not go overboard, and it'll help keep everything in check. You give it a chance to slowly adapt by adding those things back in. Like 2-3 weeks at a time, just slowly let your body adapt. Have it every single day. Changing it up with different items, but keeping it within that number. It's all about just slow increases. As you increase, your body is going to be able to adapt to that, and it's going to be able to work with you in making that change. And that can go for anything else. It can go fat, it can go just food in general, just putting food back in your diet. Some of you are going to be used to eating only like this much, and you're not going to be used to eating multiple meals a day. I have several clients who only eat maybe 1 or 2 meals a day, and we go to adding in more multiple meals a day. The meals are really, really small because they can't eat. They're not that hungry, but they eat one. By the time their next meal comes, they're not even hungry. So we always start really, really small, and over a period of weeks of working together, then eventually they're like, I don't have enough food, and they're making progress at the same time. So it's all about starting small steps, slow changes. That's what you want. So don't freak out if you've been restricting yourself for too long. I'm just giving you the info and sharing it with you just to help you to be more successful and more healthy. That's our goal. Everywhere you go, especially in the cities, you have some restaurant, some fast food joint, whatever it is, easily accessed. It's right there in your face all the time. It can be anywhere from donuts, it can be sushi, fresh, organic, meal prep things. Those things aren't bad if you have those things in moderation. Dealt with this with a lot of my clients as well. They go out to eat a lot and they're buying healthier options. Well, a lot of times they don't realize when they are buying a lot of these healthier options, some of them are either oversaturated with dressings. And a lot of times, well, it's only olive oil and lemon juice or something like that. How much olive oil is it? You're not measuring it. You don't know how much goes in there. Unless you're specifically asking whoever's making your food, I only want this amount. You don't know how much you're getting in there. Most foods that are made nowadays have a lot of fat. That adds up over time. You might think you're eating something, it's organic and it's a healthier option, but too much of one thing eventually will catch up to you. I always explain to people, especially when it comes to breads, they're like, oh, it's whole wheat, it's better for you. Anything that has to be made, that goes in a package, that gets made into a loaf, a pastry, a bottle, anything is processed. It's process. I consider my meats processed. I consider my whey proteins processed, protein bars processed. Anything that has to go through a process to get to that form. Depending on where it was made, there could be chemicals involved, the ingredients they use. A lot of these, because they mass produce them, a lot of these things use cheaper products because it costs less for them. Yes, unfortunately, that's how it goes. That's how I look at food when I'm buying stuff, when I talk about processed things, because the nutritional value on this lot of stuff is, that's why I'm like, go for your whole, raw, nutrient-dense foods. Try to cook as much as you can yourself, because unfortunately, a lot of these processed stuff, you're eating food that's, it tastes good, but the nutritional value, I mean, what's your body going to do when it has no nutrients? And we go back to talking about how your body needs a specific amount of essential nutrients to work properly, function properly, to weight loss, to weight gain. All of that stuff depends on what you're putting in your body. So you don't know how much you're getting nutrition-wise with those products. So eating those all the time, thinking that you're just eating like healthier options, you might be depriving yourself a lot of the nutrients that you need. It doesn't mean that you can't have those things. I know a lot of us do love food, do love having things like that. It's about moderation, but replacing the majority of your meals every single day, that's gonna catch up to you. I work with a lot of clients in this case that have health issues, who have things. A lot of this stuff can be reversed with diet. A lot of this stuff can be fixed with diet. That's why I'm such a huge advocate and why I stress diet so much. I have a lot of people that do sugar-free and fat-free items. Sugar-free and fat-free items, oh, they help so much in a lot of cases because you guys watch the calories. You know, that number is like 0 or 1. And you're like, oh, it's like a savior to most of us. But it can be our downfall and it can cause weight gain, especially in the midsection for us women, and it can for men too. They're chemical. I mean, how do they get to that point of being sugar-free, fat-free? They have to go through a chemical process to remove that. Then what's left in your product? Ooh, it's kind of scary. So the sugar-free, the fat-free stuff, for women, it can raise estrogen levels in a lot of of the processed foods in general. Estrogen levels raise up, cause weight gain. It can cause bloating. It can cause water retention. So a lot of us will notice that we're just always have a tummy. It's never flat. That can come from alcohol too. If you want a natural source to replace your syrups, go with maple syrup. Or if you have a local honeybee farm, go get the honey from that bee farm. Those things are going to be better options. Real, natural versus your sugar fat-free stuff. Just go for the real stuff. You're gonna be better off. I was one that used to use that stuff all the time, but now because I'm constantly educating myself, I'm constantly learning, I really care about my health and I care about your guys' health. A lot of you are always like, I just don't have time to cook. I don't have time for this. You have to make time for it. And if you really want to achieve your goal physique and you want to be healthy, you have to put in the work for those things. You have to cut things out. You have to work on building better habits, and you have to prep your foods. You have to cook. You might have to learn how to do all those things because you've never done it. It's going to be better for you. It's going to be healthier. I know I used to be one that I never cooked my food. I'd always buy out all the time. I used to eat a lot of fast food. And then I went to the point where I would buy my food and cook it, but I bought a lot of packaged stuff. It just went from there. I'm constantly progressing. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly changing things. We can still gain weight even with nutrient-dense foods. If you have cut out all processed foods, you can still gain weight from that. Why? Because maybe you're eating an overabundance and you're not exercising. That can happen. You could be eating tons of potatoes and your vegetables, eating all your own homemade foods, but if you're eating too much of it and not having a balance of exercise where your body can utilize what you're intaking, you're going to gain weight from that too. Everyone thinks that you just gain weight from eating bad foods. It's about eating too much and not exercising enough. So somebody like me is going to need a lot of food according to my training versus the next person who maybe only trains 3 days a week. They're going to have to eat half as less as I do because they don't need it. I think that's important to know that because I have worked with various clients. They're like, man, I seriously have not touched cake, donuts, anything that comes in a package. I've worked with those clients. They've had a significant amount of body fat that they cannot lose. So then we had to sit down and kind of look at what they were doing. Turns out they weren't really doing much resistance training. They were maybe running 5 miles a couple times a week. All their food it was very whole nutrient dense foods. It wasn't anything processed, but the amount that she was making, and she was cooking for her family every night, there was quite a bit of carbs in there. So just intaking too much carbs, but she wasn't exercising enough to utilize all that. You would just have to eat less according to what you're doing. It all kind of falls into the same thing, and all it really comes down to is balance. Balance in eating a variety and the right amounts. And probably ask me, you're gonna be like, Jen, how do I know? How do I know? You have to sit down with yourself. You might have to take a pen and paper. You might have to go on your phone. You might have to do something. You have to evaluate what you're doing, how much you're exercising, what you're intaking. Write down, keep a daily log of what you're eating during the day. You can even use MyFitnessPal. I've told clients that before that didn't want to, we've done training together, but they wanted to do their nutrition on their own. I told them to go on their MyFitnessPal, just keep track of what you would normally do. Don't try to plan anything, just keep track of what you normally do. Then go back in that week and look at what you've done. Then you can kind of like nail down, be like, oh man, I thought I was eating a lot of carbs, but I really wasn't. Or you weren't eating enough protein. A lot of us think that we're eating a lot, but we really aren't. Or a lot of us think we're not eating that much, but we're eating too much. Evaluating what you've been doing and then going from there. It's going to be different for each and every person. So I'm not going to be able to tell you this is exactly what you need to do because I don't know what you're doing. This is where I bring the information to you. You have to take a second look at you specifically and what you've been doing for however long you've been doing it. I tell you guys all the time, it's just about understanding yourself, understanding what you're doing, educating yourself, because knowledge is power. The more you know, the more success you're gonna have. Everything's so fast-paced and so easily accessed now, we tend to just forget about understanding and knowing what it is that we're doing. All knowledge and understanding starts kind of going out the window, and we just kind of go with the flow, and we're like, oh, this person's doing this, so I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna follow what they're doing, but we don't really understand it. Don't always be a follower. Kind of like step up to the plate, be a leader in your own life, in your own nutrition, in your own exercise, in your own journey, whatever that is. And it's just about being healthy and taking care of yourself. So let's recap a little bit and then we'll finish this video up. So when it comes down to why foods are making you fat, a lot of us are eating too much processed stuff. Way too much processed stuff, and that can be a lot of sugars, carbs, and fats. Restricting too much food, way too much food for a long period of time. You've been restricting your food for too long, and then you try to throw in a bunch of food you haven't had in there for a long period of time. Your body's gonna freak out. You're eating too much of good foods, but you're not exercising enough. It comes down to a balance for you and what you're doing. Eat out and we're eating organic, or we're eating like the healthier options at the different stores. We don't even know how they're made. Your body doesn't see, because that's labeled healthy or organic. It just knows what you put in your body. It's going to metabolize it, how it's going to process it, and how it's going to use it. Hopefully that these tips helped you understand a little bit better about foods. I know I probably sound like a broken record. I repeat myself a lot with things, but I think sometimes the repetitive, it'll help you guys kind of retain that information and kind of it'll stick, and it'll just help you be more successful. But thank you for tuning in. Please like the video, please share it. Gotta get that knowledge out there. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. You guys can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. I will see you guys on the next video. I hope you have a great day. Mwah!